Welcome everyone. Everyone can mute themselves, please. ऑडियो बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है, हाँ म्यूट कर लीजिए. Please mute yourself. Everyone mute yourselves. Except Anya, who will follow. For those who are joining the first time today also, just remember to keep yourself muted. We'll start the class. I will just share the invocation so that you can all follow. Can you see?
Not yet, please.
Now?
हाँ जी.
Okay, great. We'll start with this invocation and I'll do one line and Anya will follow the line after me. Everybody else, keep yourselves muted. You can repeat in your own self, loudly of course, at your own homes, but keep your mic off so that it's clear. Otherwise, everybody's voices will bounce each other and there'll be a lag. So we'll just start. Anya, you can start with Sahana Vavatu when I do that. Om, I will chant. Om. Sahana Vavatu.
Sahana Vavatu.
Sahana Vavatu.
Sahana Vavatu.
Na Vavatu.
Na Vavatu.
Sahana Vavatu.
Sahana Vavatu.
Sahanau Bhunaktu.
Sahanau Bhunaktu.
Sahaviryam Karavavahai.
Sahaviryam Karvavahai.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu.
Ma vidvishavahai.
Ma vidvisavahai.
Ma vidvishavahai.
Ma vidvisavahai.
Vidvishavahai.
Ma vidvisavahai.
भानु जी, क्योंकि आप आई थिंक 2-3 इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के साथ जुड़े हैं तो इसलिए बहुत एको आ रहा है. आपको I can see you in 3 frames or 2 frames, I think. Unless until it is 2 different people. अगर आप 2 इंस्ट्रूमेंट से जुड़े हैं तो आपका कोई एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट का ऑडियो ऑन है, आप ऑफ कर दीजिए इसको. We'll repeat this. Anya.
हाँ जी.
सहना भवतु.
सहना भवतु.
सहनौ भुनक्तु.
सहनौ भुनक्तु.
सह वीर्यं करवावहै.
सह वीर्यं करवावहै.
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु.
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु.
मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
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 मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
Is anyone else also hearing the disturbance?
Yes.
हाँ जी.
Of the mic? Yeah. Everybody check your screen. Should be off. भानु जी, आपका माइक अभी भी ऑन है तो शायद सिर्फ आप ही के माइक से ही आवाज आ रही है, बाकियों का लगता है सबका ऑफ हो गया है. देखिए
मेरा
आप में ना. हाँ
नहीं, मेरा तो दोनों ही ऑफ, सिर्फ वीडियो ऑन है.
नहीं, आपकी आवाज मुझे सुनाई देगी ना, सबको सुनाई देगी. दैट मीन्स आपका एक में माइक ऑन है. ये जो आप मेरे ख्याल से कंप्यूटर पे है शायद, उसका माइक ऑन है. फोन में माइक ऑफ है क्योंकि 2 इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स चलाओ ना तो एको आता है. आप एक ऑफ कर दीजिए. आपको दोनों ऑन क्यों करना है? एक में सुनाई देगा ना.
अब तो दोनों में मेरा रेड आ रहा है.
नहीं, ऑन है, इसलिए हम सबको क्लास में ना ये माइक की आवाज चलती रहेगी थ्रू आउट, अगर आपका ऑडियो ऑफ नहीं होगा तो, क्योंकि मैं आपको सुन सक
नहीं,
रही हूँ तो.
मोबाइल पे भी मेरा क्रॉस, सिस्टम में भी मेरा रेड कलर में है. अब मैं मोबाइल ऑफ करती हूँ.
हाँ, एक ऑफ कर दो तो पता चल जाएगा किसका ऑन है. हाँ, अब ऑफ हो गया. थैंक यू. अब ऑफ हुआ है. अब आपको सुनाई तो दे रहा है ना? हाँ कर दीजिए. हाँ बस, फर्स्ट क्लास. वेरी गुड. नाउ वी कैन कंटिन्यू. Now our invocation will work hopefully without obstruction. So we'll do this once more. Yeah. Sahana vavatu.
सहना
Sahanau bhunaktu.
सहनौ भुनक्तु.
Saha viryam karavavahai.
सह वीर्यं करवावहै.
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु.
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु.
मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
मा विद्विषावहै.
ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः. So, invoking the grace of Ishvara, the grace of the unknown factors. The anugraha is the word, accepting in oneself that there are forces which work outside our control and which can always interfere in the pursuit of our learning anything. And here, because our topic is extremely subtle, so we need more focus, more concentration, and more emptiness from our mind's preoccupations, because all our worldly activities seem to have almost virtually no connection to what we are going to learn. So we need a orientation of the mind itself, tuning, fine tuning. It is जब हम radio सुनते हैं in few years ago, of course, much more popular it was. Abhi bhi, if you are tuning your FM radio and you're slightly, if it is say 98.3, I think, or 98.4, whatever that is, and if you're at 98, you won't hear it very clearly. That 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, whatever that is, the minute you fine tune it, the reception becomes clear. So what this beautiful invocation does is, it makes our mind open. It makes us accept the fact. It's not that the invocation does that. By saying the invocation, I am ready to open my mind to receive something which is otherwise out of my purview at this moment. As we said before, just revising very quickly, this invocation is chanted by both the teacher and the student, and its essential meaning is that may we be protected from what? From all our own obstacles which emerge because of our own involvements in things that we should not be involved with, and as a result of which, the strength of ajnanam, which makes us do things in the lack of knowledge. Ajnana means lack of knowledge. As we proceed, these terms will get more clearer to you. Brahma Vidya is the greatest protection. It gives the highest degree of protection. And as one is in the pursuit of that protection, in that pursuit of that knowledge, one recognizes that there are many obstacles that out of our control. Therefore, may we seek protection in all aspects of our life. May the study not be just a dry processing of information. May we enjoy it. Means, may I connect to the words in such a way that they become a source of enlightenment, which is Tejasvi. May it make me Tejasvi. And that should also give me joy, because as I said before, when something becomes clear, suddenly there is a cloud lifted, and that lifting of the cloud makes a certain expression of happiness. That means this knowledge actually anyway is to deal with your own nature, which is all anandam. So the more the ignorance gets dealt with, more the knowledge works on us, more we realize that we come closer to our own source of happiness, which is ourselves. So the study, when we connect to our own life and our own self, and we see the fallacy in our own thinking, it's like how you bring up a child, and when he doesn't know something, how you expose the child to a greater learning, and then the minute the child learns it, there is some sort of a joy. So bhunaktu means let the process of joy be on both the sides. The teacher should enjoy the process of imparting this knowledge, because if it was not for their teachers who had taught them, this wouldn't be possible to have continued in society. the fact that this lineage has survived and the fact that this lineage continues to give and deliver knowledge, it is because the teachers have enjoyed the process of sharing it and the students have enjoyed the process of learning it, connecting to the words, seeing its validity, and thereby themselves passing it on. So Bhunaktu means let the whole transaction be full of cheer, full of joy, full of smoothness in transaction. And may we have the strength. Viryam karva vahi. Viryam is the word. May we have the strength to endure, first of all, whatever are our hardships in life, whatever are our struggles in life. May we endure them. Plus, may we have the mental strength to see the truth. Saha viryam karva vahai means, may I invoke the strength in me, the capacity, the strength. That strength alone, because what it is going to deal with is to deal with my own ignorance. And when I am faced with my own flaws, my own ignorance, a lot of us don't have emotional strength also, mental strength to accept it. May I have the objectivity, may I have the strength to see my weaknesses, see my flaws, see my work on them along with it in the light of knowledge and not in the light of just a psychological shift of my personality. So Saha Viryam Karva Vahi is a beautiful invocation of a prayer to say, may we acquire the strength to go through the whole process of from the unfoldment till it completes itself, which is also the Bhunaktu, enjoy. May it make us brilliant, means enlighten us with its fruit. And then may we not hate each other, may we not have dislikes for each other, may we not argue with each other, may we not, it sounds very strange, why should this be between any teacher and a student? But the fact is, you see it in secular world also. It is possible in any relationship, therefore it is possible in this relationship also. The Vedas, and this being a part of the Yajurveda, Chakha, the Veda itself is giving this invocation. Means these human problems have always been there. As long as humans are there, these problems are there, and it is up to us to avoid them. Therefore, when we remind ourselves that there will be corrections on our part, the teacher reminds herself, himself, there is a correction on my part. When I am transacting with the knowledge, let my ego not function, let my dislikes not function, let my ignorance not express itself. That means I have to keep them aside when the transaction is on. Let the transaction be as pure as possible. This is the invocation, and I said this invocation is not a part of this particular text. We are going to be doing the part of this text also very soon. But before that, this invocation, because we are going to do it almost every week, before that, we are going to do a little bit on the author of this text. The author of this text is said to be Shankaracharya. Just the name Shankaracharya. Some believe it to be Adi Sankaracharya. Adi Sankaracharya is said to be now in government records, it is said to be 788 AD. But this is a disputed fact. This is disputed. The acharyas, especially of one of the mathas, as we will see now, has from their own lineage, because it's an alive thing, from their own lineage has said actually the birth was around 509 BC. The fact remaining, it is disputable, as almost all our great acharyas, all our great teachers, all our great saints, rishis, there is very little known about them, for simple reason that the emphasis was so much on what was being delivered rather than on who was delivering it. But Adi Sankaracharya is actually a helmsman. call him a helmsman of Advaita Vedanta, which means it's not that Vedanta, Advaita was not there before him, but he was the helmsman, he was the one who steered it. And at that point in the history of Vedic culture, when Shankaracharya was there, it was at its lowest peak. Vedic culture was at its lowest peak. There was a lot of flourishment of the Karmakand portion, definitely, but more associated with superstitions it had got. And also there were a lot of other religions like Buddhism which had multiplied a lot in the society, which had gained strength in the society. Adi Sankaracharya was one such birth, pure, just 32 years of age, otherwise he lived, showing to us that it is not the length of life, but the quality of life, that because of his efforts to revive it, and that in itself is a huge effort at a very young age, all this is there, and I will not go into all the details, but at a very young age, he took to sannyasa ashrama with one prime purpose, and the purpose was to re-establish the Vedic Dharma, and particularly the way of interpreting the Veda literature entirely, Karmakand, and most specifically what was said in the Upanishads. The way to look at the Upanishad and arrive at a particular conclusion. That conclusion is Advaitam, Advitiyam, also called Advait, Vedanta. This Advitiyam, he revived it in that time. And what is Advitiyam really talking of? Vedanta itself, as by now we all know, is just Upanishad study. Upanishads deal with three topics. Vedas themselves deal, and Upanishad deals it in the sense of knowledge. Knowledge of three topics. The three topics are Jagat, which means the world, and world includes cosmos, universe. Second topic is Jiva. In the Jagat also includes all Jivas, means everything that is perceived outside of an individual is called Jagat. So Jagat doesn't just mean matter, world, it also includes all other living beings in it. That is one topic that is being discussed in the Upanishads. The second topic is Jiva, individual, knowledge about the individual. The third topic is God, Ishwar, and what is its nature. What is the nature of Jagat? What is the nature of Jiva? And what is the nature of God, Ishvara? The nature of all these three, based on how they are seen, related, are the different schools, what we did as Astikas and Nastikas, even within the Uttaramimamsa, the Vedanta, the Jnanakand, and I'm certain that we all know these terms by now, even within that, there are three prominent schools. There are more, but for now we'll say three prominent schools. I'm repeating myself for the sake of connection. Vedanta, Upanishads deal with knowledge of three topics. Essential. What is the nature of Jagat? Jagat means world, cosmos, universe, and it includes all living beings seen here. Second topic is, what is the nature of the individual? Individual who perceives himself as a unique entity. We all see ourselves as unique and different from the world. We see the world as separate from us. This individual, I'm also a jiva for someone else, you are a jiva for someone else, for me. We are all jivas for each other, but I see myself as something unique. So what is the nature of this uniqueness, unique jiva? So what is the nature of the world in which I see all other living beings? What is my nature where I see myself as unique and distinct and different from them? And what is there the nature, if there is any? First of all, is there any higher being other than just me and us and the world, and who runs the world and who created the world, and will the world exist forever, and etc. All the questions for which there is a positing factor, Ishvara. What is the nature of this Ishvara? When you see the nature of all the three, there are different thinking conclusions that come up. Each of these conclusions, three major within Vedanta itself. One is Advaita Vedanta, the propounder of it, expounder of it, the helmsman of it, not that it was not there before, is what we are saying is Adi Shankaracharya. Adi means the first, the original. Why this is important? I'll speak of it just now. The Advaita Vedanta, Advaita, Advitiyam, Ekam Sat. That idea that there is only one truth and nothing else. Everything else is Jagan Mithya. Everything else is Mithya. These are technical terms. By the last part of Tattva Bodha, they'll be touched upon. But Advitiyam means that which is one without any other. There is no second. It alone exists. Shankaracharya brought it into revival. He revived it at that time. That revival is so strong, and he revived it in the manner of disputing all other schools, defeating them, writing the bhashyams on these principal prasthanatrayams, as we have said, because of which till today, whoever be a sincere seeker who needs to know, means when that jignasa grows in a person and you're restless to have your answers, you find your peace in the study of the bhashyams, the answers you find there. That means the sampradaya, the lineage, has been kept alive because of this one. He no longer is called a jiva. He cannot be a jiva, for in a short span of 32, the amount of work that was done, he is accepted as an avtara in himself. This was Advaita Shankara, not Shankara who started it. There is a misperception about this. People associate Shankara as the founder of it. Shankara is not the founder. These paramparas have been before these acharyas, but there are some acharyas which stand out in their efforts to hold the sampradaya and to pass it on. He is one of those. Therefore, he becomes the connector for us. But for his efforts, all the knowledge would have been lost to the future generations. The second school in this is Vishishta Advaitam. Vishishta Advaitam is by Ramanuja, and the difference between Advaita and Vishishta Advait is only that they accept the truth as one, but they say the one has multiplied, and therefore the world is seen as in its multiplicity. Advait would say there is only one, and what you see now, the multiplicity you see, is actually just a dependent truth. Vishishta Advait says there is one truth, but it itself has multiplied into the multiplicity. So whatever multiplicity you see here is actually the truth now in this form. It's changed. Third one is Madhavacharya's dualism, duality, Dvaitam. This duality says that there are two realities. There is not one truth, there are two truths. One truth is God, the other truth is the world that you see. Now, three such helmsmen in their own sampradaya. Sampradaya means the process of having received it, digested it, owned it, recognized it, and then passed it on to others. The ones who have done this, these three acharyas stand out in these three lineages. They all three are talking about Upanishad content. All three have different conclusions about the Upanishad. What the Upanishad concludes is the nature of the world, Jagat, the nature of individual, and the nature of God, Ishwar. They all three will change, and that is why it is essential to understand what is the text going to talk about. Who is the author of this? We said Shankaracharya, which means the content of this book is going to be to draw towards, is to show that there is only one truth, and a student has to recognize that if there is only one truth, then my sense of reality in everything that I see, how does Vedanta address that? How do I reconcile with this? Because when I see that there is the reality in the world, then I but natural also recognize that there must be, it is either duality that I am a follower of, or Vishishtadvaitam, or other schools, Charvaka, like the society today has grown into. You will find Vishishtadvaitam has propounded a lot. Many sampradayas are there which are actually essentially Vishishtadvaitams, like Swaminarayan is one of them. There are Charvakas, means they are complete materialists. That is another one. Now, he as a teacher, as an acharya, propounded successfully, established, defeating the others. Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya came much later than Shankaracharya. Therefore, they are still propagating. But at his time, Shankara demolished all other sects and established the truth is only one. To establish this, he actually brought out a Dashanami Sampradaya. Many of you would have heard this already. Dashanami Sampradaya are the 10, you call them surnames. When they take to sannyasa, he revived the sannyasa ashrama, which is also almost gone. It was in its subdued phase at that stage. The grahastha ashram and especially the karmakand had grown a lot. Therefore, he revived that sannyasa ashrama was necessary for moksha. In the sense it's helpful, not necessary, but helpful aid for moksha. And he revived that. To revive that, because in sannyasa you give up your old name, etc., he brought out a new Dasha Nami Sampradaya and established 4 mats in 4 corners of India to propagate and keep the tradition of the Veda alive, an entire Veda, including the Karamkand. Shankara never dismissed the Karamkand. He, in his efforts, only showed how Jnanakand is the main one for moksha. This Dashanami, just for its own sake, I will only repeat the surnames so that you identify them when you hear them. The 10 surnames, as if after their name change, they take on one of these surnames according to whichever matha they are associated with. Saraswati, Giri, Puri, Bana, Bharti, Tirtha, Sagara, Aranya, Parvat, Ashram. These are just 10, not important at all, but important to understand the greatness of this work that has been put forward. And to establish, as I said, 4 mats and 4 corners, Sringeri, Dwarka, Jyotirmat and Govardhan Mat. There are other mathas like Sharda Peetham and Kanchi Peetham. Now, what is important is that the heads of each of these mathas also is called as Shankaracharya. So there is the difference in the authorship of this book Tattva Bodha. Some say it is Adi Shankaracharya who has himself written this, and some say that it is some head of one of these mathas who were also very learned, and they are also given the equal status of a Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, but they are just called Shankaracharya. They could have had any of those names. This Shankaracharya could be the person who has written this, and it seems more likely. And why it seems likely is because the invocation that he has put forward, in that invocation, again, there are two ways to see it. Whether it is Adi Shankara or it is the other Shankara, doesn't matter. Shankara is Shankara, and we are going to not focus on the person who's written, but on what has been written. And with this, there is the invocation itself that starts this text with, and I will repeat this. Today, just hear the invocation, and then maybe tomorrow one of you can follow it. After the Sahana Vavadu, we'll do that. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradum Guru Mumukshurnam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Piti Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradum Guru Mumukshurnam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Ite. It says here in this invocation, Natva. It says, Natva means having prostrated. Having prostrated. To whom? He says, Vasudevendra. Vasudevendra. Now, this is where the two different meanings of Shankara, whoever's following, who says Adi Shankara is the writer, author of this, composer of this. Adi Shankara's guru was Govindapad. Govindapad, because Govinda is the name of Krishna. So whoever says the book is also written by Adi, they say instead of Govinda, Shankara has said Vasudevendra, because Vasudev is also the name of Krishna. So he's addressing his teacher as Vasudevendra and not Govindapada. But the ones who say this is another Shankaracharya, they say he is addressing his own direct teacher, and his direct teacher must have been whose name was Vasudevendra. And he glorifies his teacher. What sort of a teacher is he? He says, Yogindram. Vasudevendra Yogindram. Yogo में जो इंद्र है, means he is the greatest amongst all yogis. Who is a yogi? He is the greatest of all yogis. Who is the yogi? A yogi is one who is in the pursuit, an aspirant, an activated seeker, who is a deliberate seeker of truth. In his own pursuit, whichever be his method, but he is in the pursuit. Yogi is differentiated from bhogi. Bhogi means one जो सिर्फ भोगता है जीवन में. भोगता है means बस enjoy करके. He puts in no self effort for improvement, development of his own inner being or move towards the spiritual goal of life. He puts no effort. But yogi is one who optimizes, as I have said in the introductory classes, who optimizes all his life and its activities and everything in his life. He optimizes it to channelize towards his highest pursuit, his highest being that is a better of him. Highest as in from better to highest. Yogindram means, Indra means जो सबसे ऊंचा है, सबसे बड़ा है. Greatest of the yogis. So who's Vasudevendra? He's the greatest of the yogi. My best way to explain yogi word is, who's a yogi, and to show its importance of deliberation to seek is, you know how you have charcoal and you have activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is highly porous because it's gone through a high degree of temperature. You know, I think about 900 or so Celsius it goes through, which changes the property of carbon and it makes it very porous. Because of it, it absorbs a lot more. So between all of us are seekers, Shastra says. We are all seeking our fullness, whether we know it or we don't know it. The worst of us, you know, means the most greatest bhogi, Indra, bhogiyon mein jo Indra ho sakta hai, वो भी एक्चुअली अपना ही फुलनेस ढूंढ रहा है, वो भी अपना ही पूर्णता ढूंढ रहा है, वो भी एक्चुअली ट्रुथ ही ढूंढ रहा है, बट ही डजंट नो इट. टू देम, यू नो, amongst them, the one who is most aspiring, like an activated charcoal, who becomes extremely porous to absorb what is the truth. He worked so hard within himself, or he works to prepare himself, that the truth, he just takes it. So he says, Shankaracharya here, the writer of this, author of this says, Vasudevendra, his guru, was one such yogi who was the greatest of all at that time. And what kind of he was his guru, Gurum, Natva Gurum. I prostrate to the Guru, who is Vasudev, who is the greatest of yogis. And what kind of a guru is he? He is Jnana Pradum. Jnana Pradum means the one who is Jnana Pradata. Jnana Pradata. जो ज्ञान दे रहा है. Guru word, we all know, has become very freely used word. It's associated with a lot of kinds of fields. So you have gurus in Tantra, you have gurus with many kinds of gurus are there. Siddhi gurus, you have many gurus. What sort of a guru was Vasudevendra? He says he was a giver of dispeller. He was the one who gave. Pradum means dene wala, jo gyan de raha hai. His specialization was giving knowledge. He was not. Another guru could be specialized in giving. There are mantra gurus. They just give a mantra and no gyan at all. There are others who give siddhi, power, etc. So he says, this guru, Vasudevendra, is a giver of knowledge, from whom he has received his knowledge. Therefore, whatever knowledge is being given is because my guru had knowledge, is what he says. And he says, now he expresses his intention. He says, having prostrated, now what is he doing? He says, Abhidhiyate Tattva Bodha. He says, Abhidhiyate means I am expounding. I am now going to elaborate. I'm going to talk about. Elaborate is not in the sense of a vast thing, but I'm going to expound. I'm going to teach. I'm going to express. I'm going to be clear about what is Tattva Bodha. I'm going to clarify what is Tattva Bodha. Why do you want to do it? Is it that you want to do it for yourself? Because, like I said, in our ancient parampara, at least not in the modern times, but in the ancient parampara, nobody wanted to glorify their individuality. In fact, it was seen as vikar in yourself. Vikar, I mean, expression of ego in yourself if you wanted to glorify your individuality. Unlike today, where your individuality must be glorified. So here, what is he expounding it for? He says, my intention is very, very clear. I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I am putting this effort because mumukshunam hitarthaya, for the sake of those who are mumukshus, for the sake of hit ke liye, hit arthaya, hit, just for their sake. Whose sake? Mumukshunam, those who are mumukshus. Mumukshu is who, as I said, activated charcoal at a later stage becomes, when he starts the process as a yogi, when he establishes, he is a yogi. He's interested in moksha. He's interested in freedom. He's interested in these afflicted stages of mind, the disturbed stages of mind, the recurring disturbances that one feels within oneself. He wants freedom from it for good, not a temporary solution. I'm not looking at one lifetime solution. I'm not looking at some short time solution. I'm looking at a permanent solution. And what is a permanent solution? Those who look for a permanent solution from these afflictions and the repetitiveness of it, he says, they are mumukshunam. They are for their sake, for the sake of moksha ichus. Ichus, moksha ichu means moksharthi. For the sake of those who desire liberation, freedom, for their sake, I am beginning Tattva Bodha. This is the introduction that is given by invocation that is given by the author himself. I'll just repeat it once more, and tomorrow onwards we will repeat it. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradum Guru Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Iti. Now we come to the next verse. Before that, there is again a slight variation. Normally, the text in most of the books starts after this invocation that we have done. But there is a pathantara. Pathantara means, because as I said, first our tradition was Shruti, only oral. People heard, memorized, without distortion, and there were rules therefore which fixed the distortion and its potential in the way the meter was, in the way the words were sung. All those were, it's a beautiful way in which the knowledge was preserved when it was just Shruti, passed on, heard, passed on. They heard, remembered, passed on, Shruti. But then in time, it became more and more difficult. Our interest got extroverted. We didn't have that time. We didn't have the humans lost interest to hold it in their minds. And the process started where everything was getting written. In the written stage of preserving the literature, when many acharyas wrote it with great difficulty on palm leaves and barks and etc. Pathantaram means it is a possibility, region to region also, when this was being passed on, that one teacher, one Pathantar said this, and then there is another manuscript which had another extra verse in it. Now this is a manuscript that you see of Tattva Bodha. And if you read it, this seems to be something very recent because the ink seems to be not very old. So this must be one of the recent ones, just borrowed it from the digital library. It says, see what we have just done. Before, Om Namaha Saraswatyai. This manuscript author, he is doing his namaskar to Saraswati. Namostute Gurave. Then Namaskar to the Guru. Then see the verse. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradum Gurum Mumokshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate. Now here is written Diyate. It should be Diyate. Now you see how when you're writing, definitely there is a possibility that there is something else has come in. Then this is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampann. This is the text. Now I'll show you another example of the same text. This is another manuscript someone else has written. Here also you will see this writer, manuscriptor, scriber is saying Om Swasti Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. So every person will put their own Namaskar first, why Ganesha? So that they are starting this process. It's a small text. Some people have finished it in 8 pages, 16 pages, but this is the way it was written and taught further. Here also the same verse. This is the way Om was written previous. Vasudevendra Yogindram. I'm sure all of you can see the verse letters clearly. This is Devanagari. Natva Jnana Pradum Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Vidhiyate. Now here again you see a change. But here also you see the next verse starting. There's another one that you will see. Same thing, Vasudevendra, etc. But again, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna. These are starting. But there is a Pathantaram, somewhere where you find an extra verse, which is this verse. This verse seems to have been introduced into Tattva Bodha book, which is also an invocation. But here the uniqueness of this invocation, it is not a part of the original book, which Shankaracharya, whoever, has written it. This verse is actually a verse which comes from Skanda Puran. There is a section called Guru Gita. Skanda Puran is specifically, though the name is Skanda, but it is predominantly between Shiva and Parvati and their conversations. And in one of the conversations, Parvati asks Shiva, tell me about Guru, its Mahatmyam, and how to get liberation. In that, this Guru Gita, again, a lot of variations now because of all this processing in between. There are some Guru Gitas have 100 verses and some have a lot more, recorded up to 400 probably. So one of the verses here, in between verse, I forgot the number, 111 or something, or 119 probably, of this Guru Gita, entirely on Guru's glory. This verse, Shiva talks to Parvati and he says, Guru is a principle. Guru kaun hai? Guru is a principle. What principle? He says that Brahman which Vedanta talks of as Ekam Sat, that is the real, itself is the Guru. And this introduction of this verse is giving Namaskar to Brahman as the Guru. Which means one way is to say teaching and teacher cannot be separated. If the teaching and the teacher are separated, then this is not a subjective knowledge. So the teacher himself, when you get the knowledge, is himself, in the Shastra it is said, is himself the Tattvam. Tattvam, which is the truth. And what is this Brahman? Why I'm choosing to do this verse? Because it is it is describing Brahman. It is unfolding the whole prakriya of Vedanta, and it is also at the same time, from a student's standpoint, namami aham. It does prostrations to such a guru who is Brahman itself. So it becomes very beautiful to go through, and also each word here is actually talking about the prakriya, the methodology in which knowledge is elaborated. Now, if you see the first word, I will just quickly chant this. Nityam Shuddhan Nirabhasam Nirakaran Niranjanam Nityabodhan Chidanandam Gurum Brahmanamamyaham. It can be done in another meter also. Nityam Shuddhan Nirabhasam Nirakaran Niranjanam Nityabodhan Chidanandam Gurum Brahmanamamyaham. First word is Nityam. What kind of a guru? Brahman. Brahman itself is the guru whom I am doing my namaskar. This guru, Brahman, now Brahman is being explained, described as it. What is it? He says Nityam. To describe Brahman, since it is something that cannot be objectified with the senses, remember the first class and the second class. You cannot objectify the truth, the Brahman, through your senses. Otherwise, the knowledge will lose its validity. This is a knowledge which is aparoksha, about yourself. The senses cannot be the means to know it. Then how does the teaching happen? How can you teach something which you cannot see, hear, etc., and yet it is to be communicated because one doesn't know it? To do this, Vedanta has a very ingenious methodology. It gives explanation of Brahman through lakshanas. Lakshanas means indicator. Lakshana जब आप, like I said the example, अगर आपको fever है, तो fever is a lakshana of कुछ तो गड़बड़ है. If you get your blood test done, very interesting. If you get your blood test done, everything is, say, in normal limits, but your ESR is high. If your ESR is high, and if it's very high, the doctor will say further investigations necessary because ESR high means your body has some inflammation. Lakshana hai. It's become a pointer. Lakshana means it's pointing the investigation in a direction. That's called a Lakshana. Vedanta gives, to make one understand Brahman as oneself, it gives two Lakshanas. Swarupa Lakshan, Tatastha Lakshan. Swarupa Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan. What is Swarupa Lakshan? The Lakshana means the viewpoint of explaining Brahman from its own nature. उसके स्वरूप से. Trying to communicate Brahman in its swarupam. So swarup का लक्षण क्या है उसके? Tatastha Lakshana means tat is bank, ta is stationary. So Tatastha means that Lakshana which, in contrast to something which is moving, is trying to indicate. Lakshana is pointer. I'm repeating. Lakshana is pointer. Swarupa Lakshan means from its own inherent nature. Swarup Drishti. Drishti wo hai. Tatastha Lakshan means from the standpoint of something which is in our perception of movement. When the bank is stationary and the river moves, the river movement is recognized because bank is stationary. That stationariness is indicative to the changing thing. You point to the changeless. So Tatastha Lakshan is something else. Vedanta uses both. Now, Nityam word is Swarupa Lakshan. I will take 2 minutes more and then we will elaborate tomorrow. Nityam is Swarupa Lakshan. What does Nityam really mean? In English, it's translated as eternal. What does eternal mean? Eternal means jo hamesha hai. If you ask someone very casually, what does eternal mean? So always there. Always there means it is free of time. Time doesn't bind it. Free of time means what? Free of the division of past, present and future. Means past, present and future don't apply to it. It is free of it. Call it timeless, nityam, free, eternal. It is what is free of time? To say it is free of time, it means there is something there, existence of something on which time doesn't have its influence. This is very essential. I see some people are distracted or are into a lot of active mode. You've entered Vedanta. We've done our invocation. And when we're doing the invocation, we are presuming that we are focused for this 1 hour plus a little minute because we had some disturbance in the beginning. So try and keep yourself centered on the topic because now the topic is subtle. Nityam means free of time. Eternal. Eternal means free of the division of past, present and future. But when you say something is free of this, what does it mean? It implies kuch hai. What can be free? There has to be something which is free of all this. To say eternal, what do you mean eternal? Free of time, always there in time. Existence which is not time limited. Existence which is not limited in time. That is called existence nityam. Pure existence, not limited in time. That existence is closely connected to time. That means I am born. How do I say? There was an event that happened. I am still living means that event is in continuity and someone will notice my death. I may not. Someone will notice. That means that event has khatam ho gaya. So that event is concluded. That means how many years did that event remain? Today my age tells me this event is these many years. That means what is time really indicative of? In Hindi it is very well put. He says, दो घटनाओं का बीच का अंतराल, difference, उसको समय कहते हैं. Time is the measure of two events. One event, another event, when you notice them, between these two, you see time is a measure. This time is represented through change. How have we concluded our years and time. Why are so many years? We are so much. How old are you? I am so many years. How has that happened? Because we have measured the time of the rotation of the earth around the sun or moon around the earth, our days and nights, etc. So time is actually a measure between two movements, two events. Science today, I'm first taking upon this word Nityam from science. 2 minutes more, and then we'll have to continue tomorrow. Science today, and as recent as 2010 and 2011 and 12, these studies are as recent as this. Some physicists have, it's almost kind of accepted that universe was through Big Bang some 13 billion years ago. Big Bang happened, and then it started the process of expansion, and the universe is still expanding, and the Big Bang happened about 13 billion, whatever the calculation. Point is, they are saying Big Bang was the event for universe to have emerged, for movement, that event has been fixed as Big Bang. Now the questions that the physicists are asking is, yes, Big Bang, okay, fine, accepted, universe accepted. Is it going to infinitely go on expanding? Means it is expanding. So is this expansion going to be infinitely there? The question has now is being investigated. Is this expansion of universe going to be infinite process? Then someone asked a question, is time an illusion? Someone means no. It's an inquiry in public domain, which is scientists are moving towards answering these questions. Is time an illusion? And there is a physicist by the name Carlo Rovelli. And he says, yes, it is an illusion. And I'm quoting his words. Our naive perception of its flow doesn't correspond to physical reality. This physicist says our naive perception of flow of time doesn't correspond to the physical reality. And then there is another theoretical physicist who Busso and his colleagues have questioned this expansion of the universe, and they are proposing, if the universe lasts forever, then any event, I'm just quoting from their books, if the universe lasts forever, then any event that can happen will happen no matter how unlikely. You'll have to concentrate because I don't have a slide for it. If the universe lasts forever, we're talking of Nityam, eternal, the idea of eternal. Scientists are questioning, is this universe going to be eternal? If the idea of eternity, universe lasting forever, then because it is measured in terms of time, then any event that has happened will happen no matter what, how unlikely it is. In fact, this event which has happened once can happen infinite number of times. That means whatever has happened in the history of 13 billion years, it can happen infinite number of times. And it will become impossible to determine the probabilities of any of these events occurring, because anything can, it's infinite, it can happen. But what is more important is, when that happens, means these events resurface, infinitely they can surface, the laws of physics simply will not apply. They don't apply. They just break down. And this is known as the measure problem of eternal inflation. Means if you accept that the universe is going to eternally go on expanding, then within them is a theory or a proposition or a question that needs to be addressed, which is then the laws of physics will collapse. So what you are seeing as a physical world, you are seeing laws operating. None of these laws can be operating if the world is to be eternally there. Now, what the difference brings Sampradaya? Advaita, I said, is a Sampradaya. Vishishtadvait is a Sampradaya. Now, Sampradaya means addressing the same questions, but without having the possibility of another question. Means it's a resolution for good. There is no question left unanswered. Now, how Vedanta sees Nityam. So, I'm just concluding now. For science, eternal is a question. We all believe life is eternal. Whether it's changing forms, we are advancing. Man has grown so much. We are so proud as human beings because we really think we are a very advanced animal creature. Because how much advancement, and in fact, the younger generations believe modern civilization is the peak of evolution. They are firm that anything to do, why a lot of them resist this knowledge is because of the preconceived idea that it is ancient. And however much you may want to say, we are not talking of something ancient because ancient is dead. We are talking of something which is eternal. Eternal means now, free of time. That free of time, truth, inquiry. This invocation is touching upon, and therefore you see the word Nityam from the science standpoint is talking of questioning whether this world can be Nityam, and they do talk further about it, which I will, I think, just continue tomorrow, and we'll end here with this session. Just end the class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate Om Shanti.